So row 1, we start with our magic ring. Remember, you're going to keep it anchored like so with your thumb. Wrap around your 2 fingers, cross in the front, and bring it around like so. Flip it over and insert your hook underneath. Grab that farther strand, pull it, turn, and then insert underneath this strand and yarn over, pull it through. Just like that. Mine split a little bit. There we go. So that's our magic ring. And then we're going to single crochet 7 into the ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to go ahead and grab our yarn tail, and we're going to pull it nice and tight. Now, it can be a little bit hard sometimes to see where the next stitch is. Oh, sorry, let me switch my slide to row 2. So we're going to increase times 7. So each one of these we're going to put an increasing stitch into. And for me, it often takes a little bit of work to get that first one. All right, so we've got a single crochet, then we'll put another single crochet in the same stitch for an increasing stitch. And we'll just do that all the way around. So that was 1. Then we have 2. 3. And 7. Then what you're going to do after you finish your 7 increases, you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, and then pull right through. And then you're going to cut. So you're going to say, I want about that much. And go ahead and just tie it off by pulling it through. So you're going to do that twice because you want to have 2 eyes. And we're going to take some white worsted weight yarn, about 5 inches worth. And we're going to thread it onto a yarn needle. We're not going to knot the ends together, we're just going to leave it like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take it from the back side and we're going to insert it between the first and the second row. I'm going to pull it through, leaving about 1 inch on the side, and then we're going to go over 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and push it back. And on the back side, we're going to go over 1 stitch. So we're going to come up on this side. We'll pull it through, then push it back just 1 stitch over. So this makes the highlights in the eyes. And so we have one that's larger and we have a smaller one. And you just pull your needle off since you didn't tie a knot in it. And then you can take these 2 ends and just knot them together. And something I also like to do is I like to take this end that's from when we started the eye, and I like to knot it with at least one of them as well. so that I know that the foundation is secure. And then I'm just going to take kind of all three of these ends and just cut the excess. So that will all be on the back side of the eye and won't be seen. So when you have the next eye made, you're going to do the same thing, just in reverse. So we're going to, well, not in reverse, backwards. So we're going to do the same thing where we thread our needle with the white yarn. But instead, last time we worked going to the left. Sorry, we worked kind of counterclockwise. This time we're going to work clockwise. We're going to insert our needle in between the first and second row. Pull through till there's 1 inch on the other side, and then we're going to go over to going clockwise. Pull through to the back, go over 1, push to the front, over 1, push to the back. Just like that, so that the highlights are the exact opposite of each other. Then we'll pull this needle off, and then following that same procedure, just knot everything together. So these are what we're going to use for our eyes. So now that we have our eyes made, we're going to be sewing them onto the head. So we're going to grab our head here and also some pins, and we're going to pin the eyes into place. So we're going to be placing them in the 5th row, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of right here. Like that. We'll do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're going to sit in like the 5th and 6th row. It's not just one row. So you're going to pin them, and you're going to try and make it so that they are kind of equal distance from the center of the head on either side, which mine are fairly close, but I think this eye could move up just a smidge. I'm just going to pull it up to about there. There. Just like that. Okay, so I'm relatively happy with that, except for how the highlights on this side are laying. So I'm kind of finicky about this, and if you guys don't care, then it doesn't matter. But in my opinion, if the highlight, when you're facing it, if it's pointed or angled anywhere kind of down, it looks angry. So I'm gonna try again. I'm just gonna rotate it right exactly where it is, like that, so the highlights sit back a little bit. So when your head on view, it should be a little bit more like horizontal rather than pointed, you know, angling down toward you, so it doesn't look angry. So that looks pretty good to me. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take, we've got 2 yarn ends here. This one is from like the magic ring, and we will just tuck that behind after we've sewn about halfway around. But with the yarn tail from finishing the eye, we're going to just thread it right here onto a needle, and then this is how we're going to attach. So you're going to work right underneath the stitch, really, really close to like the edge of the eye. You're going to be basically underneath. Then you're going to come up through 2 stitches, you know, through the inside and outside loop of that stitch, and then down through the next, like that. Then you're going to go, once again, you're going to try and stay right underneath that edge Then you're going to go up. And then down. And into the head. I'm just going to rotate this rather than rotate myself. So you're just going to continue around like this. And then you're going to, when you get to a spot where like eyelashes would normally be, if you want to add eyelashes, you can absolutely do that. And we will do it on this one so I can show you guys what you'd do. So this is kind of where you'd want to add eyelashes. So you're just going to go out farther. I usually go at least one row behind, and then you just pull it through like that. And if you pull it really tight, it kind of disappears. So you can either do it twice, or you can like wrap it. So I just wrapped there, and then I guess it is doing it twice, but it makes it a little bit thicker. And go back through that same stitch. So you get like a little bit of a more substantial eyelash. Pull that out. And then I'm going to do two. I'm going to go ahead and do it here. And I should have cut a longer yarn tail because I'm just about out. Let's see if I can get right underneath that. Okay, yeah, I accidentally snagged something. Right there. And pull that through. Okay, like I said, should have cut a longer yarn tail, but I didn't. So when you come to things like this, I just get another strand. And I don't want to tie it up here and have a knot, so I'm going to just grab, going through this next set of stitches. Just gonna pull this yarn tail down. And then I'm gonna knot on a new strand. Then I'm just going to tuck this right in there. And actually, this is also what we're going to do with that yarn tail from the beginning, from the magic ring. We're just going to shove it all in there. And what that does is, as we finish sewing around, is it's going to give it a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. So it has a little bit of that like safety eye look. It looks a little bit more realistic. Oh, there it is. Instead of just being like sewn flat to the face. Instead of just being sewn flat to the face. So now that I've got my new thread on here, I'm going to continue around once again, just trying to work as close to underneath just that corner of the eye, or the outer edge of the eye. And now we've gone all the way around, so we're just going to knot it off. And you want to make the smallest knot you possibly can.
like so. And then I just go right here as close to underneath the eye as I can and push the needle through. Go ahead and bury it in the project like so. At this point you can either just cut it off or you can weave in the ends. I'm going to do a combination of both. So I'm going to pull, I'll pull it like that. Cut it off, and then weave in the end. So that is how we're going to do the eyes. So you're going to do the exact same thing on this side, and then we'll move on to the horns. All right, so now we have the eyes on both sides, and we're going to be making the horns. So for the horns, we're going to need our 3.5 millimeter hook and some white medium weight yarn. So we're going to start off with the trusty magic ring. Then we're going to single crochet 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to go ahead and pull it tight. And then on this one, I'm not going to do the invisible slip stitch to join the beginning and the ends of rows. You absolutely can. I'm not going to, simply because it's a little bit more challenging for me when I'm using the thinner weight yarns to do it. So we're going to go ahead and just work here. Sorry, row 2, single crochet 2, 1, 2, and then increase. And we'll do that 3 times for a total of 12. And then row 12 is going to be, sorry, row 3 is going to be just single crochet 12. 1, 2, 3. So after you've done your 12, you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch and cut yourself 8 to 10 inch yarn tail. And my work tends to curl inward, so I'm just going to straighten it out the way it's supposed to be. And you're going to make 2 horns, and then we will be sewing them on. So to sew them on, we're going to need both of the horns that you've made, these little teeny horn nubs, and pins. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're going to sit in about row 8 and 9, right on either side of the loop stitches. So once you've got those pinned in place, you can start sewing them on. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Actually, before we get started, we're going to just take the yarn tail from the magic ring and we're going to put it inside the horn. There we go. So we're going to do the same thing with the eyes, where we're going to thread the yarn tail on. Then we're going to work right underneath that outside row. Then come up through those 2 stitches and then down through the next 2. You're just going to work all the way around. Once you're about 3/4 of the way around and you just have a little bit of room, you're going to put in either some fiber fill or some yarn scraps to fill it out just a little bit more. So I've got a yarn end here. I'm gonna tuck that in there so that we, keep that horn shape and it doesn't get flattened. And you'll finish sewing around. Then you're going to go ahead and knot it off. And weave in the ends. Right, so there we have one horn. And you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side with this horn, and then we'll move on to the ears. All right, so we've got our horns on now, and we're ready to make the ears. So we're going to be back with our 8mm hook, and we are going to start with our color B yarn. So I'll go ahead and make a magic ring. Like so. we're going to single crochet 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead and pull it tight. We're going to do the invisible slip stitch. So we're going to widen this stitch, work from the back, and then pull it through the front to close off that circle. So on this one, I am going to suggest using a stitch marker. I'm just going to use a bobby pin. I haven't really used stitch markers in this project thus far, but for some reason on this ear, it gets a little hard to tell where you've been, probably because we're working really small and we have this chenille yarn. So row 2 is going to be, we're actually just gonna slip this right here so we know where our stitch is. So we're gonna do increase stitch, single crochet 2, 1 and 2. We're going to do another increase. So increase, and then on that increasing, the last increasing stitch, we're not going to pull the yarn all the way through. We're going to switch to our color A yarn, pull it through, and then we're going to single crochet. So we're going to pull it through like that, and then the next row we are going to be switching. Sorry, this gets a little bit muddy, but the next row we're going to be switching right back to the color B. So I'm just going to pull it through here to finish off that single crochet stitch. And so it looks like right here like there is another stitch, but there's not, and that's why I suggested using a stitch marker, because it looks like there should be something to crochet into right there, but there isn't. It's just that we're making a pretty pointed shape, so our circles are going to be kind of small, or they're really tight. We're not growing a lot, and so it makes for kind of a bigger gap when we're closing it off. So that's the end of row 2. In row 3, we're working with our B yarn. We're just going to single crochet 2, 1 and 2. We'll do an increasing stitch, then single crochet 3. 1, 2, and 3. And on this last one, I'm going to switch yarn and pull through color A, so that our next thing we can do is increase right here. 1 and 2. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and switch to B before finishing it off. This next row we're going to single crochet 7 with our color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And before we finish it off, we'll switch colors to A, where we're going to single crochet 2, 1 and 2. Then we'll switch in the last half of that stitch. Like so. All right, then for row 5, we're going to slip stitch decrease 3. So we're going to, normally for a slip stitch we'll work through the, or for a decrease we'll work through the front 2 loops. It's kind of challenging coming off the invisible slip stitch with a concentric circle. So instead what we're going to do is we're just going to insert the hook through that stitch, yarn over, pull through, then we'll gather the loop of the next one, then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 at once. That's our first stitch. Then the next one we'll do a normal slip stitch decrease, which will be insert under the first loop, insert under the second loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. Then one more time, like so. Then we'll go ahead and on a slip stitch, and when you're switching colors, you're going to insert your hook and then yarn over with the color that you're switching to, and just pull it right through like that. And we're going to slip stitch decrease. So I'm going to gather these front 2 stitches here, like so. And I'm going to use the B yarn to pull through all 3 of those and finish that off. Then to close off the circle, finish the row, we'll go ahead and pull it through like that. Then we're going to cut a yarn tail of each color, 4 to 5 inches of each. And any thing that's not the tail, just tuck in. Like that. So you're going to make 2 ears, and then we are going to attach them. So to attach the ears, we're going to be just putting them right here, right below the horns. So they're going to be right butted up right against there on either side. And honestly, working with chenille style yarn, it's pretty hard to pin these into place and have them stay. So something you can, like, sometimes helpful is to just use a crochet hook, a small crochet hook, and just try and like hold it in place like that so it doesn't move while you crochet the, you know, the bits on. But kind of once you get a couple of stitches established, it holds pretty well, and you can, you know, remove this and not have to worry about it too much. So we're going to mostly be using the color B yarn tail because it's the majority of the color. And we'll just use the color A yarn tail for right here across the front. So you're just going to kind of pull like this. We'll go up through this one stitch of color A, pull it up like so. And yeah, I'm already going to remove that because it's kind of in my way, and then I'll just pull that down. Then I'll go ahead and use color B and start working it around. So when you are not pinned in, it's really important to like evaluate where every single stitch goes. Don't just sew blindly. I've got a pretty good idea this is where I want this to go, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that tight and then stop and take a look. I'm pretty happy with that, but I definitely want to make sure that like these stitches go right up against the horn so that it sits the way I want it to. I'm going to come right up under there. And that one I worked actually kind of into like that side stitch of the ear. Just trying to get it exactly how I want it. So go here. And lastly, oh, there is a stitch right here, but it's awfully hard. There we go. Ah, there we are. Okay. So then I'm just gonna knot, make sure. Okay, they're not. So I want to make sure that if I'm going to knot these two yarn ends together, that they are in the exact same stitch. That way I can bury the knot and it won't be seen. So now they're in the same stitch. And I'm just going to knot these two together, like so. 2. I'm just gonna weave those in. So you can see that that knot that I made is completely gone. Just gonna bury those guys in just a little bit better. And we have our first ear. Oh, I think it's so cute. Then again, I really like my work. Okay, so you're gonna do the exact same thing on this side where you're just going to attach that ear right below the horn. And then the last, or second to last thing we'll do is the nose. So you can do this a couple of different ways. It kind of depends on what materials you decided to work with. If you want like a thick nostril, you can use some like black Bernat blanket yarn. But for this project, I'm going to just use some black medium weight yarn because it was specified in the materials and it's what was used for the eyes. So I know you guys will have some. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to work under a stitch here in kind of the second row. I'm going to try and go right in through the middle of the second row. I'm going to pull up like this, and I'm going to go down, kind of go over a half stitch, go down. I'm going to flip this a little bit so I can angle it properly, and just put it right through where that stitch came out. And as you pull tight, you kind of start to lose it. You know, it gets buried in the project, so don't pull too tight. And you're just going to take these two ends, gonna knot it without, you know, pulling that tight. And one more time. And then as a precaution, I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm just going to stick it right there underneath. I'll cut a yarn tail. I'm going to go ahead and weave this in. And when you pull on these two, you can lose that stitch, which is why I've got that. Okay, took a minute, but we got them woven in. And that we're going to do the exact same thing with the other nostril. So I'm just going to use the leftover yarn from that that other side, and I'm just going to come here up through the middle kind of the stitch. Just going over like so. Put that under there. And knot these ends together. And hopefully on this side we'll have a little bit more success weaving these in. There, see that just went in nicely. And I'm going to take this and pop it out just a smidge. There we go. So that's how we do the nostrils. And the very last thing we need to do is add the ribbon to make this an ornament. So I used about 14 inches of, I think it's just a satin gingham ribbon, 3/4 inches thick, and also a brad. Here's my brad. These are like the little tiny things we'd use in school. I think I found it in the scrapbooking section. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our ornament here, and we're just going to go right underneath a stitch in the top of the head. Like that. And I'm going to pull it through. And also on mine, I did cut little V's in this so that they would fray a little bit less, and it has sort of a classic look to it. So you're going to make sure that they are about the exact same length. Then you're going to fold it over. You want about 2.5 inches on either side. So it looks like this. Then you're going to cross them. Then you're going to take the brad, open it up just a little bit. If you need to pin your ribbon so you can open your brad, that's perfectly acceptable. So we're going to open it like this. You're going to go right up at that intersection, kind of pinch it, and you want the brad to face forward. So you're going to rotate it so it faces you, and then you're just going to use your fingers to push these down in the back. You kind of want the brad ends to cross so that it's nice and secure. And that is your ornament and the bow. So that's how you're going to attach it to the tree. If you really want it to be secure, you could probably go back through with like a hot glue gun or something and attach it here on, or add a little bit of something there to the back to keep it even more secure. But this has worked for me so far, and I think it's really cute. Hey crocheters, I hope you enjoyed making the Highland cow. I would absolutely love to see your guys' finished objects over on the Old Soul Crochet Along Facebook group page, where we can share those with everyone. And if you comment with a picture of your finished Highland cow ornament on the finished objects thread, one lucky person will be picked to win the Farmhouse Ornament Pattern Collection before it's even released on December 1st. So go ahead and share your images over there. But I just want to say thank you all so much for participating in this crochet along. It's been super fun. I'm excited to see all of the things you guys have made, and I'll see you guys soon.